Well, thanks for watching Numbskull News. And today, we're going to get into UNC and Virginia being the most coveted programs for the Big Ten and the SEC. I know everyone's saying it. All the big media outlets are saying it. The big journalists have wrote it down. The middling YouTubers are all saying it. Everyone's saying it. Well, I doubt that seriously. I just do. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When I think of UNC, I think of basketball. I think of academics. I think of tobacco. I don't think of football. Virginia? No. I don't think football. So, needless to say, those aren't blue blood football brands. Those aren't even premium football brands like Oregon or Washington. They're neither one. So I'm like, well, how are they ahead of Florida State on anyone's list? Or Clemson on anyone's list? It's never made a lot of sense to me. So what I decided to do was a little bit of research, which is not really on brand, but I decided to do it anyway. I'm a bit of a dork. I don't mind looking things up once in a while. So I came up with some visual aids so I can kind of, at least from my end, give UNC and Virginia the benefit of the doubt as much as possible and really look at, okay, where's this value, this enormous value for the Big Ten and the SEC that they must have those schools. They have to add them. So I'm just going to, and it's especially about UNC. And look, this is nothing against UNC fans or Virginia fans. I don't have any hate for you guys at all. You know, nothing but the best for you guys. Nothing but the best. But, it just, that narrative doesn't make a lot of sense. So let me get to the visual aids and shut up for a minute. All right. So I did my, little bit of research, and I covered a few things here just to kind of give me an idea of where UNC and Virginia, where they land. You know, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. So let's talk about these TV ratings, and I got this from Zach Miller, who writes for Medium. I look at his list every year, and he does an average per game, all right, viewership per game of every school in Division I. And I think he does a pretty damn good job. There's no like real scientific way to do it, I guess properly. But I think it's as good as any kind of information out there on rankings. So what we find out is UNC is 46th. 46. Now, that's not horrendous, maybe. But I know there's a lot of Big 12 teams that get better ratings than that. TCU, which I know is the whirling dervish of all shits, and they're 5-7 this year, but they smash UNC in ratings. TV viewership, smash them. And UVA 58th, y'all. Boy, that just rings of SEC, doesn't it? That just rings of Big Ten, doesn't it? Not so much. The next thing I have here is some very basic demographics. And I got this from this U.S. Census, census.gov. So this comes directly from the government, whether you want to believe that or not. Here it is. So UNC has 10.8 million people. More than I thought, really. And that ranks them, I believe, they're the 9th most populated state. So as far as demographics and region, that's not too bad. Virginia's behind them at 8.6 million. All right, I'm not sure exactly. They're outside the top 10 as far as most populated. I didn't really look at, what the number was. The census.gov only had the top 10 most populated states. UNC was in that. And as far as demographics go, the last 3 years, UNC has experienced 1.3% growth, which is that's high. Doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it is. So I keep hearing about, oh, UNC, this growing market. Well, it's growing. It damn sure is. UVA, on the other hand, had 6,985 people leave the state. That's more, 6,985 people left the state than moved in the state. Now, they had a trend for a long time there in Virginia where this was true, right? More people left the state than moved in. That has shrunk down to where now it's only around 7,000, right? But it's not exactly a big growing market. And one of the biggest things that has helped their population statistics is the death rate has gone down. So I don't know how much of a positive that is. I mean, it's good less people are dying in Virginia. But this is a kind of a statistic that actually the University of Virginia itself, they have a department in there that kind of goes through all the data for the U.S. government as far as census is concerned. And that's what they found, is that Virginia itself has, had way better population numbers than they have had in recent years. And that's because less people have died, like for things like COVID and whatnot. So I don't know what the thrill is there. But as far as demographics go, UNC has a good story to tell. Virginia, not so much. Next up is GDP growth of the states. And this comes from U.S. News and World Report. UNC ranks 7th in GDP growth. That's pretty good. Virginia, 23rd, right in the middle. They're just mid as far as GDP growth. Athletic department revenue. And I get this from the NCAA Finance Report. Some surprising things I found here. So of all Division I teams, UNC ranks 32nd in athletic department revenue at $122.6 million. That's not bad, but I expected UNC, with all the hubbub I've been hearing, to be a hell of a lot higher. What I did not expect is number 14 being Virginia, and the number 1 in the ACC in athletic department revenue at $161.9 million. Holy crap. And look, I believe North Carolina is 5th in the ACC in overall revenue generated by their athletic department. Florida State has got 161.1. They're number 2. Right behind them is Clemson at 158.2 million. And freaking Louisville makes more money off their athletic department than UNC at 146.2 million. So what does all this tell me? It tells me that these two schools really don't look like Big Ten or SEC football programs, people. They don't look like they belong. That's what it tells me. Now, there's another piece of this that's very important. And I get this from Bob Thompson. He was on Big 12 Mafia, and he was talking about this, about the demographics of an area and why UNC and Virginia is important to either conference, is because that gets them into a new state, new territory. They both have conference networks, the Big Ten network, the SEC network, and they can make money off of licensing in those states, a lot of money. Probably more money than they would make off of ad revenue off of ratings. So that kind of decreases the importance of ratings, even though they're bad. And it kind of elevates the demographics of a new state. Which, at least UNC has good demographics. Virginia, not so much. However, he was asked, because I was wondering myself, I'm glad the question was asked, Georgia Tech is in Atlanta. All right. And Georgia is a fast growing state. They're right there with UNC. Atlanta is a much, much bigger market than Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, that area. I think they're the Raleigh-Durham area, I think, overall, as far as market size, is like 24th, somewhere between 24th and 26th in the country. And that's not super great. I mean, it's just not. It's not, that doesn't really sound like a Big Ten market to me. But Atlanta, well, that's a big freaking market. And you could tell Bob Thompson, his kind of ears kind of lit up and his eyes or whatever, something on his face lit up when they brought up Atlanta. Being a former Fox executive, he knows the power of that Atlanta market, how important that is. But he kind of poo-pooed that, which surprised me. I'm like, whoa, Big Ten's they're not in Georgia. Atlanta, that's one of the top markets in the country. Well, because Georgia Tech doesn't do a lot of winning, and if you include them in one of the other two markets, they'll probably just get their brains beat in all the time. So there's not really a lot of room for growth for Georgia Tech to become something more than what they are. And that's a problem. That's a big freaking problem. Now, as far as me being generous, I guess, the Big Ten and the SEC may look at UNC and Virginia kind of like the Big 12 looked at Cincinnati or Houston or UCF. Are they really on the Big 12 level? No. But if you give them the opportunity, you give them the payday, you give them the money, they will invest, and eventually they will come into being Big 12 schools. They'll be able to compete at that level, right? So me being generous is like, okay, maybe they see some future potential of those two schools becoming worthy of this big monster paycheck. But really, that's just me being generous. The truth is, how often is Virginia going to make a bowl game in the SEC? Once a decade? Maybe. Maybe. I mean, just to be bowl eligible, not CFP, not the playoff. What about UNC? Oh, there'll be years where they're sub 6-6. They don't get bowl eligible. Not in the SEC or the Big Ten, by the way. The competition is just too immense. Could either one of those programs ever win a conference title or even play for a conference title in either one of those conferences? Probably not. What about CFP? Virginia? Forget about it. What about UNC? Maybe once in a while, maybe once every 10 years, they happen to be good enough to get into the CFP. But chances are they're going to be doormats in either conference. Not only will they not get better, they'll get worse. And their ratings already suck now. Neither one of them are in some big, gigantic freaking market. Now, if you're just... Now, a lot of people may come at me with recruiting. Yeah, North Carolina is one of the top recruiting states in the country. No doubt. I didn't know that, but they are. Virginia, this year, they're in the top 10. As far as overall recruiting classes for a state, they're in the top 10. That kind of surprised me. Hell, North Carolina, as far as players in the NFL, have 121 players from North Carolina in the NFL. I didn't know they had it like that, but they do. Now, does North Carolina, the University of North Carolina, do they get all those recruits? No, they don't. No, they don't. As a matter of fact, North Carolina State out-recruits them in North Carolina. Who's got the number one player in the country from North Carolina? It's not UNC, it's Auburn. And you can go down the list of recruits that have signed this year from North Carolina, and you're going to see a smattering of Big Ten, SEC schools. You're going to see AAC schools. You're going to see Conference USA schools. You're going to see everybody goes in there to recruit North Carolina. You don't have to have a team in Carolina to recruit in North Carolina. Same thing with Virginia. Virginia Tech out-recruits Virginia in Virginia. They got a lot of great recruits that come out of Virginia. Well, guess what? LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, OU, they're going to get who they want. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, they're all going to get who they want out of those two schools. You don't have to have a school there to get the recruits. You just don't. If you're a defensive end and you're in North Carolina and here comes UNC, hey, they want to give you a full ride scholarship, man. You're a 5-star recruit. Are you going to go there? But what happens if Alabama or Georgia or hell, Florida State offer you? Are you still going to go to UNC? Doubt it. If you got dreams and aspirations of going to the NFL, you can get there through UNC. You can get there drafted a lot higher out of Georgia or Alabama or Texas or OU or a plethora of other schools. So don't talk to me about the recruiting. You don't have to have a school in the state to get the recruits. And people can come at me and they can say, look, it's about the demographics. It's about those conferences getting into new markets, all right, with their conference network and making the money that way. If that is all true, why wouldn't the Big Ten have taken TCU? It's in Texas, DFW Metroplex, one of the biggest freaking market, top 4 market, I believe, in the country. Why wouldn't the Big Ten get into Texas through TCU? It's a small private school. You don't get to do that. It's about demographics, remember? Well, what about Baylor? It's not a small private school. That's a big-ass school. Texas Tech. There's a lot of options here in Texas if it's just about the demographics and getting the money off your conference network by getting into a new territory. And I'm sorry, Texas? I think I'd rather have a Texas school than a North Carolina school. You want to talk about demographics? That's a joke. It's a joke. And the Big Ten, I'd rather get Miami or Florida State. I'd rather get into Florida, that recruiting. That new market with my conference network. I'd rather get down there in Florida. They got way better demographics than North Carolina. See what I mean? The shit doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay, well, why? Why is for all the reporting? Well, where's the reporting coming from? It's coming from leaks, from sources from within somewhere, right? And my thinking is, well, why would, the Big Ten or the SEC leak this stuff out? Because they have to leak it out unless someone's just making shit up. But let's say it's coming from legitimate sources. Who's feeding the sources? See what I'm saying? Why leak it out? Maybe a smokescreen. Maybe it's some gamesmanship between the SEC and the Big Ten. Oh yeah, we're going to take these two schools and hopefully you rush to get them so we can get what we really want. Maybe something like that. Or when it comes time to snatch who you snatch, you can say, hey, this thing here just worked out. Don't sue us. Look, we really wanted North Carolina. Look, we really wanted Virginia. We just weren't able to pull it off. We settled for Florida State and Clemson, so don't blame us, Could be some of that. There's probably several reasons I haven't thought of and why you would just straight out put out some BS about Virginia and UNC over Florida State and Clemson. None of those make any damn sense. Those are great schools. They are really good programs. I know Virginia has suffered for a while. They've been not good for a long time. But could they turn it around in the right circumstance? Yeah. But that circumstance isn't the Big Ten. It's not the SEC. When I look at all the information, you know what I see? I see 2 Big 12 schools. Because one thing no one's talking about is who's number 1 on Fox's list or ESPN's list. I guarantee you it's not UNC or Virginia. It's probably Florida State, followed by Clemson. Follow the money, people. Follow the money. If I'm ESPN, I'm all about trying to save money. I'm not trying to pay UNC or Virginia double what I'm paying them right now. What I wouldn't mind at all is to have them and several other schools go to the Big 12, where I'm only paying 2/3 of what I'm paying you right now, and Fox pays the other third. So I save money on that content. I'm not trying to pay double for a program who has the 46th ratings in the country, viewership ratings in the country. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to pay you less. And ESPN would get out less having them go to the Big 12 versus the SEC or the Big 10 for Fox. Because Fox ain't stupid either. Would they love to have that UNC basketball content on a Fox network? Yeah. Playing Big 12 schools, playing Houston, playing Baylor, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati. Yeah, I would rather have that. I would love to have that. I'm not going to pay you $70 million a year for a media rights deal. Oh, they would come in on a discount, but that discount runs out, and then you're paying the full freight. I absolutely hate that argument because it's bullshit. Oh, you get them on a discount, you $30, $35 a year, $40 a year. Eventually, you're going to be paying them a lot more than that. And last I looked, ESPN ain't trying to pay everybody $75 million a year, $70 million a year, whatever it is. And whatever it's going to go up to in 2032 in the SEC, or whatever it's going to go up to in 2030 in the Big 10. Not trying to pay that. And think about it, folks. These conferences, the NCAA tournament payouts and the CFP payouts, that's not going to go up. All right, your revenue from that isn't going to go up because you added 2 more teams. The only way that goes up is if they participate. So yeah, with Virginia and UNC, your NCAA tournament revenue could possibly go up. Your CFP? No. And that's going to be a larger chunk of your revenue, especially when this son of a bitch goes to 12 teams, possibly 16 in the future. Whatever gets negotiated in 2026. It's going to be an ass ton of money, astronomical money. And do you really want to split that 2 more ways with teams that aren't going to be putting in? In the SEC, those programs are going to suffer. It's going to be tough for them to even be bowl eligible, much less the college football playoff. So they're not going to be able to put in on that revenue. They're just going to take from it. It's going to cost you money. This is why the SEC isn't going to expand a shit ton. And they're going to expand with teams that can make the playoff. That have huge matchups that you can sell like a son of a bitch to advertisers. That's what you want. That is not UNC. That is not Virginia. Neither one of them. There's no numbers out there that prove that they are. The only reason anybody thinks that UNC and Virginia are the number 1 picks of the Big 10 and the SEC is because the big media people told you so, because their sources said they saw a list on someone's desk. Well, you can kiss my ass with that. I'll believe it when it happens. And if it happens, I'll make a video of how stupid I am. I don't mind doing that at all. I'm just some jackass UPS driver with a YouTube channel. Like, I care if I'm wrong. It ain't gonna haunt me. Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm a micro channel. Who gives a shit? Anyway, that's all I got on this crap today. I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.